statute versus what were the deliverables? That's the question. Okay. All right. I'll make the intervening motion to bring that up at the next meeting. As the next meeting will also bring up the spaceport. Can I have a second on that? Second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, we'll bring up that along with the spaceport, since the next meeting will be 2 meetings after the Supreme Court decision. So we'll bring up the spaceport at the next regular meeting. And one other item. Yes, sir. The question of the county attorney being able to represent me now that the Supreme Court questioned it, which was the only piece of litigation that I was involved in as a named plaintiff, and that's been resolved, and rather forcefully so. That should clear the deck for any discussions regarding any other spaceport matters between the county attorney and me, following his statement that he was not going to talk to me about any spaceport issues. Well, we'll bring up the spaceport at the next meeting. That's the different issue. The issue is legal representation. I'm sitting here bare as far as I'm concerned. I do not have legal representation. I do not have confidence in the county attorney to represent my best interest. I had asked the question at the last meeting that you proposed, that you provide for me, the same as you did for Judge Sweat, legal counsel, when the county sued Judge Sweat. And remember also, the county sued me. So I feel vulnerable about this, and I want resolution on that. All right, we can make that. You got your motion. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
So this motion is to bring it up as item 12 for
Yes.
discussion. Yep.
If it passes. If it passes. Those in favor of adding item 12? That's for him to discuss about somebody representing him, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Thank you, Mark. Those opposed? Motion carried. We've got item number 13, or item 12 now. Anything else? I'm through.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Second. All those in favor? Motion carried. We got on the agenda. All right. Okay, can we have a motion for approval of minutes for January 17th meeting?
So moved.
Can we got a second?
Second. Oh, you got it.
All right. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Sorry, I was drinking on the job. Folks, there are some seats down front. Please, you don't have to stand up back there. Okay, this brings us to the presentations. I got one announcement for the residents of the city of St. Mary's. Please be advised that the deadline to request for the absentee ballots for the upcoming special election, you need to do that very soon. I didn't write down the actual date of the deadline, but it's coming up. All right. Okay, who's going to give the presentations? Is Nancy?
Yes. Yes, the first item is just recognition from the Government Finance Officers Association to the Finance and Budget Department, which I am CFO, and it's a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting for fiscal year 21. We just received notice in January, so we would just like to bring that to the board's attention.
Well, thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How many years is this?
This is the 21st year
First year.
to oversee it.
Thank you.
Could we get a picture?
Sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, this is to comment section.
Camden Parks.
Oh, perhaps.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. Let's go in here. Commissioners. On facilities department is the county roads with the Camden Park project. A few things kind of Cameron Park project. Maybe. There we go. So, keep on saying, the CPS, that's 7 months, updating the county-owned parks, which the CPSA maintains. Part of the purposes of the PSA master plan, that was completed in June of 2021. That without all jump on parks and the recommendations for the recreational facilities that are recommended by our needs. For this Camden County parks, the majority of them are labeled as the neighborhood parks, which is parks that serve specific neighborhoods and the size for the neighborhoods surrounding the parks. And it's not this high people's park, but it is those areas a community park based on its usage and its priorities. Anybody that would like to take a look at the master plan for the PSA, it's the website there on the bottom, and it is on the PSA website. We can do it. As part of that master plan, the parks were laid out as an overlay of the Camden County, and the National Recreation and Parks Association delineated the amount of space that each park is supposed to cover. And this map is just a representation of what those parks cover, and they do, at the moment, cover the majority of the populous areas throughout Camden County. Again, that is part of the rec master plan. I mean, this is the combined parks of all the parks, not just the county parks. This is also City of St. Mary's, Woodbine, and Kingsland. There we go. So for Camden County, there we go. In July of 2022, Camden County Board approved funding of $651,720 to renovate the county-owned parks. In the research of the Parks and Rec Master Plan, the folks that really put the master plan together recommended that you spend approximately $2.4 million each year over the next 10 years in order to upgrade all of our county parks and to be consistent with the growth that we're seeing here in Camden County. So we see 651,000 is really just to get us to a point where our citizens can utilize the parks in a safe manner and enjoy themselves on a daily basis. We still have a very big shortfall as we move forward and grow as a county. So Camden County and the CPSA, we've collaborated several different times over the last 7 months to kind of lay out our priorities and what the parks, as far as Camden County parks, need and require to make them a safe place for families to play and to live.
Maybe if I do it nicely. Maybe. You just got to point it in the right direction, I guess. So as of right now, the progress that we have made is all county-owned parks have new mulch installed. In regards to the mulch, I have had inquiries on the compliance with the playground safety and the mulch requirements. Now, I don't claim to be a safety, certified safety inspector, but I have spoken with several and have a little bit of information regarding the mulch itself. So the mulch was ordered from a state certified manufacturer of playground surfaces. And the CPSA director independently verified that certification of the product. Golden Isle's wood product maintains the documentation and the certification on the manufacturing process of that mulch. And to help us maintain the mulch, the PSA is sending one of their technicians to the Certified Playground Safety Inspector course in September so that we have a safety inspector for all the playground equipment, not just the mulch, on staff at the PSA. So we no longer have to request that from an outside entity. Safety inspectors walk through the grounds periodically as a safety inspection with the PSA. They make a note and they document their inspections with the PSA. And for any safety requirements that they do not meet, the PSA is required to upgrade those immediately. When new playgrounds are installed, like we're about to talk about with Harriet's Bluff and Cornelia Jackson, they are supervised by a certified safety inspector of playgrounds, and they are certified before they're ready for use. As far as the mulch itself, it must meet the inspection and maintenance requirements, along with 3 different ASTM requirements in order to be ADA certified. 2 of those requirements are done in lab testing with a certified safety inspector prior to and during its manufacturing process. And one of those is based on the use area or the fall areas. And that is, you're not allowed to have any additional things around the play structure where a child may fall. And you have to have a playground safe surface. Howard Peoples Park is where we've got most of our work going at the moment. That play structure has been, the parts for that play structure have been ordered. I'm waiting on a lead time for them. Our plan is to have that done by the summer so that when T-ball kicks off, we're not in the way of any of the summer projects and summer activities that are happening at Howard Peoples Park. All our other parks are scheduled to be completed by the end of December 2023. And that way we can hand them over to the PSA with them up to the standard that we were hoping for. Both Browntown and Maple Ford parks had no structural problems with them when they were inspected by the safety inspector. So they both were power washed, prepped, and painted any of the major corrosion areas in those. And then behind the scenes, we're getting quotes on all of the pavilions, tree removal for any that are dead or defective, all the sidewalks and resurfacing of the basketball courts and tennis courts. I should have all of those completed here in the next 30 days. So we can put out construction RFPs for all those if needed, and then get the renovations rolling on those. I have a couple artist renderings from some of the quotes that we have. Again, these aren't guaranteed to be what the parks look like. For Harriet's Bluff, there is enough room for a 5 to 12 year-old play structure. That is the children in the range of 5 to 12 to play on, along with a ancillary structure, whether it's a seesaw or some other play structure along with it. And same thing with Cornelia Jackson. We're looking at 2 different play structures at Cornelia Jackson like there is now, a 2 to 5 year old play structure and a 5 to 12 year old play structure, along with new swing sets and new swings. Again, artist rendering isn't necessarily going to be this specific play structure, but it will be something similar to this. Our next major projects that we have coming up, what we just talked about, the replacement of the 2 parks. The majority of the basketball courts and tennis courts should be going as soon as the temperature gets consistently warm, which is what we're going to have most problems with the resurfacing, is making sure that resurfacing product stays. It doesn't immediately fail. And then Howard Peoples will be where we focus the first with the walkways, tree removal, and then all of the pavilions, doing the complete renovation of those so that they are ready for people to come play with T-ball and the sorts. With that, Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Just got one comment. The decision to turn it over to the PSA hasn't been made. That'll be a decision for the whole board if we choose to do so.
I was simply saying that we can give it back to them after we're done. Yep, clarification isn't needed.
Yeah.
And you basically said December is your,
December is my goal.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments, questions from the board?
thank you, Matt.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, this brings us to the public comments section of the agenda. I want to make a couple of statements first. I think most of the people registered are wanting to opine on the rules pertaining to the setting of the agenda. This is actually nothing new. It just hasn't been in writing. And you would think that the citizens would want the rules of your government to be in writing. And as demonstrated just moments ago, we're not preventing anything from being added to the agenda. The only thing we're doing is making sure that we adhere to the open records rules as far as pertaining to getting out the information of what will be before the board to the public well in advance. What we don't want is somebody on the board to come up and say, hey, I want to make a motion that we tear up the asphalt on Vacuna Road from Gum Street to US 17 without, say, proper notification to the public. Or how about the issue with the private property on Cumberland Island? Would the public want that to be done on the spur of the moment? I don't think so. Or another example, we could bring up, say, the Woodbine Library. We could take up that issue tonight on the spur of the moment. We do not want to do that. You do not want your government to be able to do that. With that, we'll open it up to the public. We'll limit it to 3 minutes each. And there will be no yielding of the time. It's each individual with 3 minutes. Katie, do you have anybody registered?
Yes, I have quite a few. The first is Ms. Terry Walden.
My name is Terry Walden. I live in St. Mary's, and I'm a constituent of Commissioner Jim Goodman. I'm here to speak in opposition to your proposal under regular agenda item 1 entitled Resolution Establishing a Rule Pertaining to the Agenda Setting Process.
Thank you. Might need to get closer to the mic, please.
At the beginning of 2022, the county commenced multiple legal actions to throttle the voice of Camden constituents, including blocking the March 8th referendum. On October 6th, these efforts culminated in a Georgia Supreme Court hearing in which the county attempted.
Excuse me. What does that have to do with rule setting agenda?
I'm getting to it, and I'm a 1-minute presentation, sir, so you're just making it longer. The videos are recording.
I got 3 minutes, so, you know.
On October
Take your
6th,
time.
these efforts culminated in a Georgia Supreme Court hearing in which Camden County attempted, and I am quoting the words of the justices who heard the case, to unwind the results of an election. Today, the Supreme Court ruled against you unanimously on all counts. The people of Camden and their votes count.
Ma'am,
Tonight, if you approve this grossly misguided agenda-setting process resolution, you will ensure that the citizens of Camden, and specifically District 4, will take action. We will not allow you or the county commissioners or the employees or the attorney to throttle the District 4 residents or our duly elected representative, Mr. Jim Goodman. Your violations of the Open Meetings Act occurred on January 17th as well as January the 4th. This act specifically states failure to include on the agenda an item which becomes necessary to address during the course of a meeting shall not be precluded from consideration and acting upon such item. It is very clear. Additionally, 50-14-6 of the code provides for criminal and civil penalties in willful violation of this act. The citizens of Camden are more than tired of this nonsense. In the past, you have simply ignored us, you've made us very angry, and you are building a brick wall of resistance. We ask you now, please listen to us and stop this nonsense. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. But we just proved that Mr. Goodman could add stuff to the agenda. So next speaker, please.
Ben Goff.
If you must. All right, I'm starting. You're on the clock, man.
That's the mulch. One is from playground and one is from the shrubbery. If that meets any sort of safety mulch, everything I have is on the agenda. Strategic planning is produced by Lyle Sumac and Associates. Extraordinarily, a consultant paid $35,000 to produce what is supposed to represent future planning. Exactly why are we paying the inflated salaries of the folks that should be capable of proper planning? We pay our county administrator $170,000 plus stuff. He can't do planning? It's on the agenda.
I'm not stopping you.
Good. Public Service Authority is also on the agenda, as presented by Mr. Zink. It's a public nonprofit corporation created as a method of achieving economies of scale with regards to recreation in parks. It has been an organization fraught with embezzlement and waste since inception, and it continues to this day. Scrutiny and poor management has allowed the removal of outpouring of tax funds to mosquito control, grounds maintenance of county buildings, and now right-of-way maintenance for county roads. The vast majority of the mowing equipment recently purchased by the organization was done so using SPLOST funds designated for right-of-way and by right should be returned to the county. What remains now is to get the PSA out of county parks and recreation. And assuredly, any planning to pass ownership of any county property to the PSA by this board will be met with public outcry and swift action to remove any commissioner who would do so. What I put before you is the latest example of lack of attention to detail. Who is actually paying attention to that mulch? Certainly not the folks we have entrusted with the safety of our children. Specifically, county PSA board members who were advised in advance of this, as well as the District 2 Commissioner. More than anywhere else in Camden County, 78% of District 2 voted to stop the purchase of the Union Carbide property, the total being 72% overall. The Commissioner for District 2 swore an oath on his first day in office to represent the constituents in District 2. Thus far, on 2 distinct votes, he has violated that oath, going against the wishes of his constituents.
Your time's up,
regards
Mr.
to
Goff.
the spaceport legal issues and spending. In addition, the Commissioner
Mr. Goff,
for
your
District
time's
2
up.
has voted illegally to suppress First Amendment rights.
Mr. Goff. Your time is up. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Howard Davis.
What can we do to clear up the sound? It sounds like something from like. So he was too close to the microphone. Howard, go back somewhere in Camden County and speak, okay?
Can everybody hear me now?
No? So too.
Can everybody hear me?
A little bit too close, Mr. Davis.
All right, let's try this then. My name's Howard Davis. I live at 5035 Clarks Bluff Road in Kingsland. Gentlemen, only thing I want to address is your item number 1 on your agenda, the resolution establishing rules pertaining to the agenda setting process. What are the rules? You don't make us, the public, aware of what you're wanting to set. I mean, you just said, well, we aren't inhibiting anything and using Mr. Goodman as an example, but what are the rules? And that's what I object to. Before you vote on setting the rules, I think the public, the voters in Camden County, the taxpayers in Camden County should know what the rules are. Thank you.
Thank you. The proposed rule was a part of the agenda package. Before this, the rule was never published at all. Matter of fact, I'll read what,
Point of order, Mr. Casey. Ordinarily, this is a rhetorical exchange only.
Mr. Goodman, in the past, the public has wanted us to have an exchange as well.
So that procedure has changed? Have we changed the procedure without notice to the public? Because maybe other people wanted to be here. I mean, these surprises are not right.
Okay. Evidently, Mr. Davis, Mr. Goodman doesn't want me to answer your question right now. But I'll answer it anyway. Article 2, Board of Commissioners, Section 233, Rules of Procedure. The rules of procedure for conduct and meeting of the Board of Commissioners shall be adopted by the Board of Commissioners from time to time. It has never been posted. All we're doing now is posting what the rules are. Now, what we've got here before us is not set in stone. This is a proposal. We will work on it tonight, and if a majority of us agree to it, then it will be set in stone and the public will know what it is. Okay, next speaker, please.
Ms. Gwendolyn Edenfield.
I'm going to start talking before I get up there so I don't lose any time. And I think this might help also. With regard to any organization, generally the procedure is bylaws plus standing rules. Standing rules, generally, they are placed for everyone to see and within a certain time period. And then there is discussion at the next meeting or at a designed time. And then they are voted on. It is a process. And I think that one of the things by not having this presented to the county, oh, and forgive me, 237 Edenfield Gate, Gwendolyn Edenfield, Kingsland. It is, I think, inappropriate. I think we've all seen in the last few years several different places around the nation where their speech is being stifled. And I would hate to see the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, and to be perfectly honest, I haven't looked up any of the amendments for the Georgia Constitution, but I'm pretty sure that not allowing citizens to speak, and I'm not saying rebel rousing, I'm saying to speak, we probably should have a process where multiple weeks are allowed before something comes up. I know I attended a meeting last year, and the notification was less than 24 hours before the county commissioner meeting. And it wasn't about national defense and security of the county. So I think that all citizens should have the amount of time to be able, and I realize that citizenship is something that we're missing out on. I taught school for 34 years, and what we don't know nowadays about how things go along is amazing and frightening. But at least it would be nice if all county organs, Facebook, whatever you're using, some of this stuff could be put out to people with, they'll use the internet when they won't use anything else. But I just think that we need to have a process where there are bylaws for certain things and standing rules to make sure that those things happen. I'm not aware of what you learn when you go to your mandatory training to be a county commissioner or a government official, whether municipal or county. But I would think that there should be something in there about how you conduct your meetings, which I know there is, but I would think there would also be something about county bylaws and standing rules for operating as well. I don't know if you have them. I haven't seen any of them. So, but that's all I have to say.
Well, that's part of the reason why this was brought up. And one reason why this was brought up was a citizen stood up front before this board and asked what the procedure was to get something on the agenda. So that's how all this started. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Jim Goodman.
Citizen Jim Goodman, part-time county commissioner, full-time strong proponent of the First Amendment. It's a great day in Camden County. The Supreme Court of Georgia handed us a victory. This is related to the subject at hand, by the way, Mr. Casey. And we won decisively. Now, for the first two meetings of my short tenure as a commissioner, I made a motion that the county release all records relating to the spaceport to the public. The last meeting, I tried to make a motion and was told by Chairman Casey that I could not make a motion as a sitting commissioner. Commissioner Casey also made an intervening motion trying to block my motion in the last meeting by tabling my motion until after the Supreme Court of Georgia has ruled. Today they rule. Thank you very much. Between the date of the last meeting, Chairman Casey and our county attorney have concocted a new rule, which he now tells me is just to formalize a system that's been in place for quite some time, that is designed to keep me from making further motions in a meeting unless the chairman and two other commissioners vote to allow me to put it on the agenda. Now, very late coming into this meeting, I received an updated copy that slightly alters that. What I want to know is what led up to this? What is Chairman Casey and any others that are involved in this afraid of here? Why is the release of spaceport-related records or anything related to the attorneys so threatening to Chairman Casey that he would go to these lengths to silence a sitting commissioner? We're all paying lawyers to continue to try and justify the county's breach of the Georgia Open Records Act. It is time for this to stop, and it's time for us to turn over all records related to the spaceport that need to be released to the public. So it comes to this. There's a group of people at this dais in front of you. We do not rise to the level of excellence that Camden County claims. The level of excellence that Camden County claims is because of the worker bees. It's the line staff employees. It's every single department director and every single employee, Kayla, Katie, Scott, every one of you guys that I've had interactions with that have been absolutely professional and wonderful, we are letting you down as commissioners. And I challenge us, myself included, to rise to your level of excellence as we serve the citizens of Camden County, our bosses for all of us, elected and hired in this county. And I mean that seriously. I intend to see us carry forth to a level of excellence that has not existed for quite some time. Don't make any noise. I'll leave. Thank you, Mr. Casey.
Next speaker, please.
Terry Keller.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Terry Keller from the great city of Kingsland. Can you hear me? I'm just gonna talk in my usual loud voice. Okay. Okay, so I've just got this fantastic book from Jacksonville at the used bookstore. It's the Camden Challenge. It's a Camden history. Cost me $50. Can you imagine? It's from 1976. And a lot of wonderful things in here, including stuff about commissioners right on the front page. So what you guys do as commissioners is going to go down in history. And so I just wanted to show everybody that there's a great Camden history book out there. And so now I'm going to read something that might give us a clue as to how you might be remembered. This is to the Georgia Attorney General, Chris Carr, and the DA, Keith Higgins. I just wrote them. I sent them a letter today. Thank you for your great service to Georgia. Your work is very much appreciated. We're having a bit of a situation here in Camden County. You might have heard of us, perhaps in the New York Times. Our county commissioners are suing a judge that allowed a referendum for the citizens of Camden County to vote whether or not they wanted to purchase hundreds of acres of toxic land for its.
Could you get to the point?
Yeah, well, this is what went to the Attorney General, so I want you to I'm going to make sure you know. For a spaceport.
I've already read it, but go ahead.
From which, how'd you read it?
You put it on Facebook.
Oh, yeah, okay. Thanks, guys. From which no rockets may be launched because they would fly over occupied private property. Apparently, no one from the commission or the FAA looked at a map prior to coming up with this plan. Now we have a new member of the commission who wants to do the will of the people. At his first two meetings, he has talked about the $12 million of our taxpayers' money that has gone down the drain toward this boondoggle and all the lawsuits the commissioners are in the middle of concerning it, and has said in no uncertain terms that he wants the waste to stop. This has caused a few of the other commissioners to try and institute a flexible rule that no commissioner can add items to the agenda unless 3 other commissioners okay that action. Apparently, this may fly in the face of Georgia law, Georgia Open Meetings Act, Georgia Code 5014-1, that states, failure to include on the published agenda an item which becomes necessary to address during the course of a meeting shall not preclude considering and acting upon such item. But the law has been flouted many times when it comes to the 7-year-old spaceport fiasco. This is just the latest attempt to keep up the fight long after, according to the people of Camden and their 73% win in the aforementioned referendum, it should have been over. I'm not sure why these few commissioners are trying so hard to keep it going, but this latest attempt to stifle the voice of the people needs attention by someone on a higher level. That's why we are now looking to you for guidance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. John. Mr. John Cober.
I'm John Kober. I live in St. Mary's, and I'm here about the agenda item number 1. I only learned about it a couple of days ago, so I'm not as up on it as I'd like to be. But what I read, it just is kind of a weird coincidence that we get a county commissioner in, and this comes up, and it looks to me as a bald attempt to stifle him putting things on the agenda. Now, I haven't had enough time to research these different rules and such, but the time is very questionable. And I find that kind of ridiculous that Commissioner Casey, is it, mentioning the freedom of information earlier today. Didn't you say something about the freedom of information
No, sir.
in your initial talk? Am I right?
Mentioned the Open Records Act, but
I think it's ridiculous for you to bring that up. Freedom of information with everything that y'all have gone through to stifle any inquiries into what's going on with my tax money into the spaceport. I'm really, I'm surprised to hear that come out of your mouth, sir. And I got to say a quote from Judge Judy. You got one mouth and two ears for a reason. I've seen you interrupt people at least twice already. This is our time to speak to you, and you should be listening. That's all I got to say.
thank you for coming.
Mr. Paul Harris.
Mr. Harris realized he couldn't speak on spaceport, so he's gone. He'll come back at a subsequent meeting. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other resters, Katie? Anybody else want to speak from the public? On the agenda items only.
Yes, sir. My name's Philip Jones, 201 Catherine Street, St. Mary's. This is my first county council commissioners meeting. I frequented St. Mary's city council meetings, but there's something fundamentally wrong here tonight. I'm sitting here on that second row, appalled at the discussions I'm hearing and just the general interaction. And I smell a rat. And it's just, there's something fundamentally wrong with the way you're addressing people, the way, like this gentleman said, you're not hearing what the citizens want to say. And it's all going to come out one day. But that's all I wanted to say. I'm appalled for what I'm hearing.
Thank you for coming.
Mrs. Bishop, you have my info.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you wanted to.
Robert Moore, 509 Westgate Circle. I was here for the second granting audience to the public, but on this subject, I'm used to, like that gentleman, the City of St. Mary's Council, where if I understood the rules, that a council person can get it put on the agenda, and then when you set the consent agenda, you are on the record of, do you as a body want to take that agenda up? Now, I don't know if these rules, I haven't really researched it, is limiting, but I feel that any one of you gentlemen have the right to say, I want to put it here on the agenda. And then when you're setting the consent agenda, you're on the record for all the recording devices and the public to show your support or your non-support of that subject, of that issue. So if you had, Mr. Reddick, I'm your constituent. If I ask you to put something on so we could discuss, and then these other gentlemen don't want to hear part of it, I know at least you tried for me. And I could, pick a bone with them when I see them in Walmart. That's just the way I feel. So I think that these new rules are just excessive when you already have the basic kind of like Robert's Rule of Order, where you can put agenda there, you set a consent agenda, and you have that discussion then. That way it's recorded, and your constituents say, okay, well, my commissioners, tried to bring it to the table. The other ones told me to pack sand. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Good evening. My name is Mark Fouts. I live at 310 West Bryant Street in St. Mary's. I'll make this brief. You don't even have to set the timer on me. The last I heard, our governments were created of the people, by the people, and for the people. This particular resolution for establishing rules for agenda setting looks to me like it could be perceived as a subjective method for people to delay discussions that are time sensitive. That's not what we're here for. We're here to discuss things when it comes up, do it as normal individual people, and get to the bottom of the problems. And we can't get to the bottom of the problems if we don't discuss them. So being able to stifle people with their agendas, that's not the way to do it. That is not of the people, by the people, or for the people. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Anybody else?
Yes, sir. Timothy Besset, and I'm not going to speak on item 1, but I am going to speak on item 6 on the agenda, the strategic planning as it relate to the mental health need assessment. I think we can all agree in our county that there is a need for more resources when it comes down to mental health. There was a proposal, a suggestion that our organization, we the NAACP, sent to the commissioners about 2 years ago, asking to allocate funds from the ARPA funds to help with mental issues in our community. And I think that as we look at the law enforcement and their ability to deal with mental health cases, we need to really give that some serious attention. I received a telephone call from a mother whose 17-year-old daughter was put in the county jail after suffering a mental health situation. Last night, I was awakened out of my bed and had to go deal with a 15-year-old young man who was dealing with a mental health situation. And I know we've all seen the viral video of a gentleman by the name of Jared Hobbs, who was beaten in the county jail because he was also dealing with a mental health situation. So it's important for us to be able to establish law enforcement and their ability to work along with people in our community who are suffering from mental health situations. There was a report that was given to news reporter, jailhouse report. In their own admission, young man laid in his feces for over 5 days, locked up in a cell because he was suffering from mental health issues. I have a picture in my hand here. Young man received 16 staples, a black eye, being kicked in the face while he was dealing with the mental health situation. These are facts. I sat in the district attorney office and viewed the video myself. It could have easily been a Memphis situation where you have officers on the scene and not being able to identify with someone who's having a mental health situation.
You need to wrap it up, please.
Excuse me?
Need to wrap it up. Your time's up.
Okay, and for the record, everybody that comes in contact with law enforcement, and especially young black men, it's not because we're doing drugs. Maybe it's just because we might be having a mental health situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Maybe we'll get into it.
Mary Beckman, I'm District 3. I want to echo what President Timothy Besant said about the need to address mental health issues. And when you think about prioritizing that as opposed to the subsequent item on your strategic plan, which is to build a new jail, please consider the recommendations of the jail study from more than a dozen years ago, which said that before you do anything to expand the jail or anything like that, consider how the jail is being asked to do things like house people who are suffering mental health crises when they really belong somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Rick Manning from Bullhead. First, just a quick thing on your item number 1. This resolution shouldn't even be on here. I mean, you've done broke all that kind of rule anyway. You did just tonight. 2 weeks. This man asked at the first meeting about putting something on the agenda. Now you put him off for 2 weeks. You can't dictate that. It states that he can put what he wants on the agenda if he give it and he puts it in there in time. It's been a month done gone. He's still not on the agenda. So let's leave that alone. We'll go on to item 6. On the strategic plan. Once again, here's the county strategic plan, spending money, going to expand your gun range. You still have not addressed the issues I brought up. And it's not just me. I'm the spokesman for this. You haven't not addressed it. You deny that there's any kind of noise pollution out there. And that's a bold-faced lie, and you know it, and you know it. And I know you stalk all my pages. You see all the surveys, all the data I've put out there about what it does to the wildlife and the ecosystems. It's there because it's not in your little study. And I know about project studies. They're there for one reason, to achieve a desired outcome. And no, Laney, I don't know what I'm talking about. As you bluntly told me outside last meeting, I've done many projects. I've prepared these surveys. I know what they're for. The desired outcome. Get funding and approval and omit any other facts that are detrimental to getting the desired outcome. Y'all don't research nothing. None of you. Half of you probably ain't even read that study. But you don't question anything. Now, if you don't think that stuff's out there, research it. Everything I post, everything I say is facts. The noise is detrimental. No wind factors took it in. And you know that too. It even states it on there. We didn't take wind factor in. The wildlife, only in a little 20-acre spot. Nothing about the rest of it. That's what you call truth with omissions. I've done these studies. I've done many projects. We know how to do this. We know how to fool people that does the approving and the funding. Now, either you're going to get something done or I'm going to continue. Don't think I'm stopping. If I have to go out there and give pamphlets out at the Dadburn Gate out there at 2 Rivers and let them know. We'll move on to the health issue next. Because there's a lot of health issues that goes on at gun ranges that y'all not in that study either. And y'all not even worried about neither. Just expand it. Don't worry about the kids' health, the people's health, or anything else out there. It's in there too. That's in there. Y'all stalk my page, read it. And I've got plenty more where that come from. So address the issues. If you want to answer questions tonight, Mr. Casey, you like to answer questions, not answer me. Are you going to address the issue?
We're going to work on it. Thank you for your comment.
Oh, you'll answer what you want to. You won't answer me. Thank you.
My name is, can y'all hear me? Well, my name is Valerie Fouts. I live at 310 West Bryant Street in St. Mary's. And I follow Mr. Manning on Facebook. We've never met each other in person, but we have talked with each other and we friended each other. And I'm curious, have any of you all seen the video that he has posted outside of his backyard, his tranquil backyard that used to be tranquil, his quality of life used to be better? Have any of you all watched it and heard the continual gunshots going off continuously, day in, day out? You've been wanting to talk over people before, Mr. Casey. I'm asking you. I'm going to ask you, have you watched this video?
Yes, I have.
And what do you think?
I'll reserve that comment.
I'm sure you would. If that was your backyard, would you be reserving your comment?
Experienced that, yes.
No, I think each and every one of you need to watch it maybe 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 times because you all encroached on that gentleman's quality of life. It's not cool. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Greg Housen. I think we ever got lost here for a bit about something. We're talking about the agenda issue. Okay?
Yes, sir.
The reason I'm up here speaking is I read your statement And I have a lot of experience with parliamentary procedure, all right? And actually, y'all, it's a good thing what he's trying to do because it keeps him from putting something on the agenda, 3 people and voting on it, and it happens like that. It's not supposed to happen that way. But if he wants, or anybody here wants something on the agenda, we bring it up and you wrote your notes down, all right? What you're getting lost in legalese, and I've seen this before, is you've said a reasonable time. Now, the 2 things that this gentleman wants on the agenda, are those going to be next month's agenda?
The next meeting.
Yeah, okay, so that's what you're telling me, but you said reasonable amount of time is what you said in your statement. It's what you said. So anyway, where I'm going with this is, and this other lady brought up that everybody should have 4 weeks to chime in. The way of the parliament is at the end of this meeting, you should review what's going to be the agenda for next month's meeting. You guys approve it, and then tomorrow it's on your website. Every citizen in the county that cares about it, you don't have to hand feed them, but if they care, they read it tomorrow and they say, I want to talk about that. And then they get in touch with this lady, and next month they can talk about it. But what you're telling me is the rule you're proposing is anybody that brings up an agenda question tonight, it will be in next month's meeting. That's what you're telling me.
Yes.
Okay, well, you said earlier that in a reasonable amount of time, and that's legalese that, well, a reasonable amount of time might be 3 months for you and a month for somebody else. So anyway, that's all I'm done talking about. But if somebody brings up something that they want to put on the agenda, it shouldn't happen tonight because we could be here until midnight. But if anybody brings something up that they want on the agenda, you have to write it down and it's on next month's, say.
Sir, could you, I'm sorry, I'm over here. Could you just give me your last name and what city you live in? I didn't catch it. Okay. And you're in St. Mary's? What city do you live in? Okay.
Anybody else wish to speak?
Around town.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dave Rayner, down the road from the mayor, Misty Harbor, Steve Winkle, live in Woodbine. So I'm pro Cumberland Island. I've camped there many times, wilderness camping. I'm pro Woodbine Library. I'm pro child safety. I believe that it's everyone's goal here on this board to make sure the children in these playgrounds are safe. That's why you have a safety officer that will inspect it. I believe that the gun range next to the dump was genius, actually, to put land out there far from folks. And I appreciate the gentleman's concerns, and you're hearing those. So there's nothing wrong with that. I know last meeting it was said that the wildlife are impacted. There's no bald eagles. I go to that dump a lot. There's bald eagles all over the place. And it's good for that land to be set aside. And as far as, I'd just like to say to Terry Keller, I've had that book for 30 years. And on page 96 of that book, Terry, it talks about Thicol. Thicol incident was just this past week. And Mr. Casey came out, represented the county, spoke well. There's not a person here that has malicious intent that I believe, like the 31 voters that Ben Goff has brought that voted for him in the last election. But the fact that he has 31 spokesmen behind him doesn't mean that he speaks for the whole county. And 71%, that was 4,000 people out of the 54,000 people in the county for that referendum. So there's another side to be said. I appreciate all of you guys talking openly. I'd like to ask Mr. Saints to start attending these meetings if he would, because back when the spaceport was kicked off, he was very much for the spaceport before he became against it. And then when Taiwan contacted Atlanta, the governor, and said they wanted to come here and do business, he was all of a sudden on board. So then today he posts that the people have spoken, 71%, which isn't 71% of the county, and that the Supreme Court, so he wants to kick it down the road, but I ask that you just take it. We've got a license, you put that in a vault, and you let time go by while some intelligent people can discuss the issue. Don't do anything knee jerk. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right, anybody else wish to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to the regular agenda. This is resolution establishing rules pertaining to the agenda setting process. I believe everybody here should have seen the edited last version that was put out. And speaking to not Mr. Rayner, but the last gentleman that was up, if it's deemed necessary for the operation of the government, or it's time sensitive, like the motions that were put on tonight, if it doesn't meet those requirements, or if it fails to get a majority vote tonight, this proposal says, whereas if the request does not meet the above requirements, the request will be added at the next regular meeting, if not subject to a prior motion. So anybody can put anything, any commissioner can put anything on the agenda. This is just putting the rules on paper of what the county has been following for decades, probably.
Is it possible to have some discussion before we make a motion?
Sure.
Okay. So the edits that were made, I think there were 3 or 4 edits made to this document. Was that released and published out on the website or republished? Okay.
Probably didn't have time
Okay.
to do that.
So one of the things I saw whenever.
You could read. He's fixing it.
Yeah. Can we do that? So as presented, I saw several issues with this document, and I think the intention was good behind it, but for me, it lacked a balance of powers and input from all commissioners. And so it puts agenda items at the discretion of 4 positions previously, the chair, vice chair, administrator, and attorney, and that puts a lot of subjectiveness into the hands of those individuals. And so, I feel like there's 2 ways to get something on the agenda, and this has kind of been the way we've been following. It's not been documented, but you can submit it by the deadline, which is really for the public benefit to get that advertised, or you can add it before the meeting. And, if you add it before we adopt the agenda at the meeting, then that'll go on there. But I think some of the language that's been added really clarifies, the process as far as, before, if you submitted something by the deadline, it wasn't clear if it was going to be on the agenda or not. And is that the modified? It is not? Okay.
But it will, you can go back and forth.
Okay. So can you zoom into the 4th whereas paragraph?
Right there.
Yep. So one of the things being added, where it ends up, any commissioner may place an item, including providing all backup supporting documentation on the agenda by cutoff time, which is 11 a.m. on Wednesday preceding the regular meeting. It kind of stops off, but it doesn't clarify if you place an item, if it will definitely be on the agenda. So I think the modification is a good modification, and it continues to say such items shall be placed on the agenda as provided. And so then looking into the 6th paragraph, or let's see, it's 7th paragraph. Oh, you're good. You're good. So it currently reads, whereas after the cutoff time for either regular meetings or work sessions, no additional items shall be placed or added to the agenda other than those deemed necessary for the operation or functioning of the county as recommended by the county administrator, county attorney, or chairperson of the commissioners. And this is where I felt like there was a lack of balance of power. And so that's being suggested to be replaced with the majority of the commissioners. And that's just exactly what we, performed here tonight by having those motions seconded and getting a majority of the board to add them to tonight's agenda. So I feel like that kind of clarifies that situation. And then looking into the last paragraph, there's the numbers 1, 2, and 3. Yes, thank you. And so again, those same 3 or 4 positions, and not a majority of the commissioners. So the benefit here, if you want to add an item and bring it up that's not submitted by Wednesday, you can do so at the meeting. And if that motion fails, then you can just resubmit by the next deadline of 11 a.m. Wednesday, and it's automatically shall be on the agenda. So I think.
Well, the next paragraph, if it doesn't meet the above requirements, the request will be added at the next regular meeting.
Right.
So
Yep.
it covers that.
So I feel like now it really provides a little bit more clarity and guarantees, and like Mr. Moore's argument earlier, that was one of my prime examples or issues I had with this is, what if something is important to my constituents or, and may not be relevant or deemed relevant by, the chairman, or maybe it's deemed relevant by the chairman and not the county administrator. There was no hierarchy of who decides what gets on the agenda. So.
So, given your excellent points, and I mean that sincerely, Trevor, and thank you for your studious consideration and submittal of those points. How is it then that the chairman could make an intervening motion, which some authorities say there's no such thing as an intervening motion, but for the sake of argument, let's assume that there is. There are people who intervene in court cases as a party to either the plaintiff side or whatever. That's a court case, not parliamentary procedure. How is it that the chairman unilaterally says, we're not going to discuss that tonight. We're going to put that off for 2 weeks until the decision comes in from the Supreme Court, which really has no material effect whatsoever. Either way they found, for or against the citizens, it would have been the net result. So here's what I would like to say, and I will frame this in the form of a motion at the appropriate time. Why are we in such a hurry? And let me ask the question, when was this first published? When did we first see that we now have a procedure? A few days ago, a couple of days, 1 day?
It came out with your agenda package on Friday. Anything that's put
Thursday,
late Thursday afternoon, anything that's put on the agenda such as that is open for negotiation and changes or anything like that until we vote on it.
Okay.
You chose not to do that until recently.
Okay, pardon me, Ben, but I've not been to Operations 101 for the Camden County Commission. I mean, I've taken training from the ACCG, mandatory training, and I've asked about where's the playbook? And I asked, was it Robert's Rules of Order? And I was told, no, we don't subscribe to Robert's Rules of Order. We subscribe to the ACCG. I didn't read anything in the ACCG book that said, this is what Camden County does. Where's our playbook? Where is my orientation as a new commissioner, having been used to what I call a much more civilized process in St. Mary's at 4 years as a councilman, and try and figure out how I can negotiate this without offending anybody and yet be heard and represent my constituents You know, I'm just looking for information here. So what I'm going to suggest to you is rather than us being in such a hurry to carve this in stone, why can't it also wait for a few meetings or a couple of meetings or use those bad words that this gentleman pointed out, and in the indeterminate period of time, maybe let's specify 2 meetings from now. Let's take this up, giving us time to run it up the flagpole with various resources that we might have and see how it holds water, rather than trying to reach a decision tonight. That in spite of Trevor's very good work on this.
You know, that's a good point, and I'll preface, you know, this comment with, you know, I think that's a good idea to let this lay for, you know, till the next meeting amended, you know, with those amendments so the public can read through those amendments. But really, I think, you know, as amended, this would be a good example of how, you know, at our last meeting, you were denied, you know, the ability to put that motion or put that agenda item on. And then, you know, again, tonight until the next meeting. So whereas if this was adopted at the last meeting and then you were denied that opportunity, then all you would have to do is resubmit by the deadline, and it was, you know, it would be a guarantee to be on the agenda.
You make a lot of sense, Trevor, and you're ruggedly good looking, and I'm not into men at all. So thank you for that.
Okay, let me read something from the city of St. Mary's. This is part of their code. Any urgent matters that need to be added to the agenda may be added by motion and vote of the council as part of the approval of the agenda of the city council meeting. No items may be added to the agenda except as stated above. That's no different than what we're doing now. You did this for 4 years with the city of St. Mary's. It's no different.
You didn't make 4 years. I made 4 years. What do you think I didn't make 4? I served my 4 years.
I think you did.
Thank you.
All right, any more discussion on this item?
I will say this, and I went to the same class that he did in Athens with the ACCG, and we talked about that. They actually did a meeting for us, and it went just like our meetings are going now. When I first started coming to these meetings, it drove me nuts too, because I would hear these folks go up here and they would share their hearts. They would tell what they were really thinking, and there was nothing coming from this section here. And it drove me nuts, because I thought, you know, there needs to be dialogue back and forth. You don't resolve things unless you talk about them. And I agree with that. However, I was told at the ACCG, if you try to hold that kind of meeting, that you will be there all night long. The best way to do that is through town hall meetings, one-on-one. You guys have our phone numbers. We try to answer. I will tell you this, I've drank through a fire hose now for a month and a half. And I can't answer every phone call I get, but I try to call back and I try to talk to people, because that's important. But I don't think you can resolve all the issues right here, but you can bring them out, and then we can start resolving them. And then in the next meeting, put it on the agenda and talk about it. So that's what I was told, and I get it now. Because if not, then we will be here until 6 o'clock.
May I make a comment?
Yeah.
These meetings, if you look back on the videos, which you can now access very easily thanks to our digital and media person and our county administrator jumping on that when I pointed out that they were filed under the name of whoever was sitting at the console. And if you didn't know that name, you couldn't find it on YouTube, but you can find them now. You're welcome for that. You're most welcome. If you look back at the meetings for the last period of time that they're available, or if you've ever attended these before, they're about a 30-minute meeting. Folks, we owe the citizens and the people who go to the trouble to come to this room more than 30 minutes. We owe you a thorough airing to the extent that we can. And no, I don't want to be here till midnight. I've done that with the city of St. Mary's when we had executive session and had to argue out things in that back room. And they were things that were under the sunshine provisions. No, I don't want to see those meetings run all night, but I don't want to see this wham bam come in here 30 minutes and adopt a consent agenda, and nobody knows what that consent agenda means. Nobody has any idea what it is. I want to see us improve the communications. And yes, Mr. Casey, I do want to see dialogue. This rhetorical session I wouldn't mind if it morphed into that, but I was asking you not to criticize my friend Howard's opportunity. Let's be consistent as a point of order. There's a medium somewhere. You know, we're 1 hour and 20 minutes into a meeting tonight. I don't see anybody nodding off. And I think you can get up and leave when you're ready to. And I think that there are people who are going to speak at the second public input session and maybe hand us our hat, you know, for what we've done here tonight. I do want us to have more meat and potatoes in these meetings. I want us to have more dialogue, more service to our citizens. I'm off my high horse now. Thank you very much.
He should be a preacher because he talks more than I do.
With that being said, I'd like to make a motion that.
Well, hold on a second. I want to make one comment before we make a motion. On page 523 of the 4th edition of this handbook, Georgia County Commissioners, which was put out by the Carl Vinson Institute of Government, it states, as a rule, commissioners should establish a deadline for submitting requests or communications for inclusion in the agenda. Any item received after the deadline should be held over for the next meeting unless the majority of the governing authority members present at the meeting vote to add it to the agenda. That's what we do. Okay.
I was just going to say, with that being said, I'd like to make a motion that we table this resolution as amended until our next meeting.
Second the motion.
Any discussion on that?
I'm okay with that.
I don't have a problem with that either. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we're through item number 1.
I need 2 units of O positive blood, please.
We got 12 more to go.
All right, this moves us to appointment to the Camden County Planning Commission for District 2. Can I get a motion on that?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that, that we appoint Lee Depew.
Okay, can we have a second?
Second.
Is it yours?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant. Mr. Brandt.
Manning, yeah. All right, we got a motion to appoint Lee Depew to the Planning Commission for District 2. Any discussion? I have a vote on this. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Now we need to adjourn. I need a motion to adjourn the regular meeting, convene a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. All right, Joey.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, good evening, Commissioners. First item up will be a request to rezone 3 acres from single-family residential to agricultural forestry. Along with this will be a future land use change from residential to rural residential. This property is located in District 2 at 1818 Union Carbide Road. The owner is requesting a rezone so they may board horses on this parcel. The Planning Commission recommends approval on this.
Does anybody wish to speak in favor of this item? Yes, sir. Come on up, sir. Please state your name and address.
Yes, sir. My name is Lee Cato. It's my daughter, Savannah. We're at 1818 Union Carbide Road, Woodbine. I know we have a gentleman that opposes it and says that it will bring his land value down. We have since researched similar parcels with the barn that I'm gonna put on is about $40,000. The arena and the fence altogether probably about 70,000. But similar parcels in North Florida, South Georgia, the same amount of land, going about 750,000 to 1.4 million, which would be about 250,000 more on the low end, more than what I got right now, up to probably almost $1 million more. And like I said, we're paying $1,100 a month for her to board 2 quarter horses that are for barrel racing. These are not horses that graze out in the field. They're kept in a barn, they're kept special feed and everything like that. are brought out in their work in the arena. So that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak in favor? Anybody wish to speak in opposition to this?
Mr. Chairman, board members, my name is Dr. Marvin Jones. I am a lifelong citizen of Camden County, graduated high school here in '76. I pursued my degree in medicine, came back home, and I practiced here for 28 years till I retired. I built the home out in Harriet's Bluff in a subdivision that was deemed the estate section for I can't even call the name of the place that's next door to it. But in any event, the covenant at that time required that if you built in the estate section, it had to be more than 3,400 square foot. I built a 7,000 square foot home for me and my daughters. We lived there for 26 years. Dr. Vargas built the next home, and a computer guy built the next home. Now, I've since retired, but I still practice medicine, and I'm doing that on a sort of a monthly basis or assignment. And sort of related to what some of these people are talking about, I just heard about this January the 4th, that there was going to be something happening with the property that I needed to attend. January 25th was the first hearing for the planning board. And apparently, according to my daughter, who attended in my stead, and was quite upset, she said, because there were so many people there and she didn't know what to say. Well, I was on a Zoom thing, well, not Zoom, FaceTime with her, and all I could hear was what was going to happen, and the property was located far from mine. I'm looking at this from a moral and ethical standpoint. I got a home that's appraised by the county for almost $1 million. I've got a lot of investment in that property. And when the Catos bought the property, they knew it was zoned residential. Okay, now, because their daughter wants to ride horses, that's fine, but where does one's rights begin and where one's rights end? I was against that because it's going to affect my property value, one. Two, it's also, I don't have anything against horses or whatever, but I think as far as standards are concerned, I want to maintain the level of excellence that I have already had at my property. And it just disturbed me that right after the 25th meeting, which the planning board agreed, they're now 7th, less than 2 weeks. I had to return home from my mission to address this publicly. Now, I am not only offended, I'm a little bit insulted that someone who just purchased a home in 2021, obviously, if they had a problem with wanting to board horses, there are plenty farm areas here in Woodbine that you could do that. I have a home and I wanted to maintain its residential status as it was previously zoned. I paid taxes. And if this is going to resort to people having a farm within eyesight of my property, then I have a major problem with that. And two things I want recorded. Obviously, somebody knows something that I don't know, because the fence post is already there, as well as the fencing to be done. I'm looking at this from the position of the proverbial turtle on a fence post. We all know turtles can't climb fences, but someone here obviously has a reason to believe that before I speak on my behest, that this is already a done deal. So I want that noted on the record that it's there. And I want it noted that it was only 2 weeks that I had to come from the 25th to the 7th. I don't know how the county thing works, and I'm glad I'm here because I've had some good examples of how irritable it can be, and that's irritable to me. It is really irritable to me. If someone can just say ad nauseum, well, I want to put a pigsty on this side of my property because I own it. But when you bought it, it wasn't deemed for pigsties. It was residential. And if you're going to change that because it inconvenienced you, then that's your problem. It's not mine. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Rebuttal, anybody? Mr. Cato, you want to rebut that?
Yes, sir. When we did purchase the land, we did ask the realtor if we could have our horses on there. We did not investigate until we started planning for that and found out that it was residential. So we were not aware that it was strictly residential. And then as we started going, investigating stuff, we found out that we had to get the building permit and all that for the barn and everything. And then I talked to, oh, I forget who I talked to. It might have been you on the phone. And said that I need to get rezoned to bring 2 horses onto that land. So that's the process we're in right now.
Thank you. All right, now we do the motion. Yeah. Normally we only do, for and against and a rebuttal. That's the normal procedure, sir. Yes.
Okay. If you didn't know, I knew. Change this full residential. What I mean, what your name? That's great, but
Yes, thank you. All right, next item, Joey.
Next item up would be a request to rezone 2.63 acres from commercial general to single-family residential. Along with this will be a future land use change from commercial to residential. This property is located in District 1 at 12866 Georgia Highway 110 in Woodbine. The owner is requesting a rezone so that they may build single-family residence on this parcel. Planning Commission recommends approval of this.
Anybody wish to speak in favor of this item? Seeing none, does anybody wish to speak in opposition of it? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, Joey.
Next item up is to consider a request for an alcohol license to Patricia Taylor and Legendary Sports Lounge for retail dealers of malt beverages, beer, wine, and/or spirituous liquors. This is located in District 1 at 5121 Highway 17 in Kingsland. The applicant has satisfied all technical requirements for this consideration, so planning staff would recommend approval.
Anybody wish to speak in favor of this item?
Robert Moore, 509 Westgate Circle, St. Mary's. I really don't know these people, but I just want to put it on the record. Down at St. Mary's, we've got a councilman that votes against anything that he deems immoral. I see this as potentially economic and free capitalism. So let the people do what they want. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else? Anybody want to speak in opposition to this item? Seeing none, we'll move on. Need a motion to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene the regular meeting.
So moved.
Can I get a second? All in favor? Moving along. All right, you're back up, Joey.
First item, a request to rezone 3 acres from single-family residential to agricultural forestry. Along with this, will be future land use change from residential to rural residential. This property is located in District 2 at 1818 Union Carbide Road. Planning staff recommends approval on this. Planning commission recommends approval on this, sorry.
Can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve with discussion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second.
Joey, do you know if there are any existing covenants active in that subdivided area?
No, sir, we're not aware of any covenants.
Okay. I just want to say I'm a huge proponent of private property rights, and, I think it's really more our intention to look at the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens and not, property values and protecting their equity and home ownership. But I pulled the zoning maps in this area, and it looks like there's quite a bit of mixed use along that strip of Harriet's Bluff Road. There's a lot of, there is R1, there's R2, there's AF, AR, some CP, and so my decision would be to support this. So, thank you.
Comment, please. Yes, sir. I don't know of any discipline for a young person that holds them more accountable than equestrian management. And for this very lovely young lady to be involved with this pursuit is something that I wholeheartedly support. It falls right in concert with my esteemed colleague, Mr. Trevor Reddick, that ruggedly handsome man down there. What he said about that property rights are very important. And Mr. Cato, I think that your work with your daughter and your investment does trump a concern from a distance away about someone's valuation on their property. With all due respect, sir. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Can I?
Sure. Have it.
My question is this, how far away from your house is this?
That's the reason for this entire debacle here. It's not really so much as property, but I pay taxes to that amount in supporting it. And I feel like if someone wants to have horses or pigs or cows or whatever, I have a right as a property.
I agree. And I rode down there yesterday because I wanted to see, because I know there are horses right there at the entrance to Harriet's Bluff.
Yes, sir.
And my thoughts are, I don't know if you guys have talked, this might be cutting the baby in half, because you both have legitimate arguments here. But, and I saw a bunch of wood out next to somebody's house. I'm assuming that was yours. And I saw what was about to take place. But I suggest strongly that you guys have a conversation and try to work this out in a different way. That to me is important. I wouldn't vote, and you're in my district, so I would not approve this right now, without some kind of conversation between you guys. Because you're going to be neighbors after this is over, am I correct?
Well, we're neighbors now. I don't know him, but.
Well, you will now, though, I can assure you. And if you just jump on this without you guys coming to an agreement, I think is a mistake at this point. I think you need to step back and talk. And then maybe, can we bring this to the next meeting?
Well, right now, we've got a motion to approve in a second.
Okay, well, then I vote, okay, go ahead.
Well, now, whoever made the motion can withdraw the motion if they wish.
He made the motion with discussion, right?
Right, I did, yep. And I would just say, I mean, I know sometimes it's difficult to look at like this, but I think sometimes we have to make those difficult decisions and not vote on something based upon the popularity of how something is perceived, but vote upon it upon the allowed use of something. And clearly the zoning maps show a mixed use of zoning in that area, which is probably why the planning commission supported that. So I would still stick firm, because I think you're never going to be able to get people that may oppose together. And maybe in this case you can,
Good.
but you know,
You gotta try.
yeah.
If you're not gonna withdraw your motion, then we got a motion in a second. Can I get a vote on this? All in favor?
Okay, now what does in favor mean? That he gets his,
That he gets his rezoning.
okay.
Okay, that's 3 in favor. Those opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item, Joey.
Next item is the request to rezone 2.63 acres from commercial general to single-family residential. Along with this will be a future land use change from commercial to residential. This property is located in District 1 at 12866 Georgia Highway 110 in Woodbine. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Motion on this item.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? I get a vote on this motion. Favor? Motion carries unanimously for the rezoning for Scott Henning. All right, item number 5.
Next item will be consider a request for an alcohol license to Patricia Taylor and Legendary Sports Lounge for retail dealers of malt beverages, beer, wine, and or spirituous liquors located in District 1 at 5121 US Highway 17 in Kingsland.
Can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the alcohol license for Legendary Sports Lounge. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I believe they've been working on this for quite a while, and we knew this was coming back to us. All right, item number 6, the adoption of the 2023 action agenda for a strategic plan.
Yes, sir. Good evening. To talk about the 2023, it's also known as the 2023, 2028, 2038 strategic plan, but specifically the 2023 action agenda. You have electronic copies, and the electronic copy is also available online in the commissioner's packet. At the moment, we don't have any printed copies available. We wanted to make sure that you had the earliest opportunity to see it, also so that we could, make sure that we stay in time with the dates that are listed in our action agenda. As you noted, though, there is a draft marking on it, and that's so that we can have that opportunity to make sure that we get all the corrections taken care of with spelling and grammar, and if there's any duplicates that we haven't caught quite yet. In our action agenda, we have specific dates, and generally we won't print this document just because those dates change. As you recall, we met in December, staff met at the end of November and in December as well to work on this plan, and we're going to have quarterly reviews as well just to keep up the progress with it. There are 4 goals in our strategic plan this year: a financially sound county providing exceptional service and value, grow the local economy, a great place to live, and then managed growth and a plan for resiliency. As part of this, there's a policy agenda that is focused on the Board of Commissioners that has 14 items. 6 are listed as top priority and 8 are listed as high priority. There's also a management agenda with 12 items, 6 listed as top priority, 6 listed as high priority. Additionally, there's 132 management and progress items that fall into those 4 categories that I mentioned, and also another 26 major projects. So we're asking for approval tonight.
Basically, if you want to know what the county's doing, this is it.
Yep.
Can I get a motion on the side?
Motion to approve.
Second. So we got a first and second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 7.
All right, good evening, Commissioners. I'm here to seek approval for the purchase of portable AM radio stations for Camden County Emergency Management. This project is a strategic planning initiative. The Board of Commissioners previously approved the grant award from GEMA. These funds are available to the county that were federally designated as disaster areas due to hurricanes. The vendor is a sole source, meaning that only one supplier, to the best of the requester's knowledge and belief, is based upon thorough research, is capable of providing the required product or service. Funds will be used to purchase the AM radio stations. These stations are portable and can be placed around the county and programmed with hazard notifications. The county is responsible for 25% of the matching funds, totaling $20,059.50, with a $1,588.50 in overage. And the overage was due to inflation from the time that we went out to seek for this in 2021 till now.
Any discussion on this item? Well, let's get a motion first.
Motion to approve for discussion.
We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. This is a budgeted item, correct?
This is part of the hazard mitigation grant.
But
Yes.
the part, the county's part was a budgeted
Yes, sir.
item.
Yes, sir. It sure is.
Approved by this board originally and everything.
Yes, that is correct, sir.
Just wanted that on the record, yes.
Mr. Carrera, how many units are you talking about? I missed it if you said it.
2.
2 units.
Yes, sir.
And with those 2 units, what would the saturation be of the county if they were,
25 square miles.
okay?
So what we would use these for each unit, right? So what we would use these for is in the event, like we had Hurricane Irma that came through and we set up pod distributions at the college.
Right.
This would be set up to give information where you can tune to radio station 1420.
Right.
You could be guided to what to do when you approach.
Would that pretty much cover the county?
Not the whole county.
Okay.
It's just 25 square miles, so the county's 628 square miles. So it's only used for local events.
Okay. Okay. I'm satisfied with it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Try to keep Chuck from talking. I've heard him talking.
Oh. All right, can I get a vote on this item? All those in favor?
All right, thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, Julie.
Good evening.
Item number 8.
I would like to request permission to submit a grant to the FEMA Assistance to Firefighter Grant in the amount of $168,024.58. These funds will be used to purchase the following equipment: PPE, extrication equipment, vehicle stabilization struts, and Blitz Fire ground monitor with slack tips. Please don't ask me what any of this stuff is. There is an error on the agenda memo. I accidentally said extraction instead of extrication. This grant does require a 10% match. It is $16,802, and this will come from the grants match special appropriations line item. At this time, I'm requesting approval to submit the grant as presented, and we do have firefighters here if you have questions.
All right. Can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we got first and second. Any discussion? Can I get a vote on this item? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. All right. This brings us to Public Works.
Good evening, gentlemen. This is going to be a long one.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. The approval to purchase the right-of-way mowing equipment. This is to request to consider the approval purchase equipment to conduct right-of-way mowing in-house. It was decided, it's been outsourced for many, many years, and it was decided that we would bring it in-house and self-perform these services. The budget amendment was approved in January 17th Commissioners meeting. The Public Service Authority needs to use all of their equipment and did not have any to sell. And we have requested quotes from Sourcewell and Georgia procurement vendors for pricing. And we can go through each of those line items. So after we went through to right size and decide what equipment we were going to need in order to self-perform all of these services, the list brought up. Then we went through the process of getting the budget amendment based on that. And these pricings have come in under the budgeted approved amount. So the first item up is the 4x4 tractors. We received quotes for anywhere from a 75 to 110 horsepower tractor. The Sapelo equipment has the Kubota tractors. We've had them in the past. They had a great resale after many years and many hours of service. They're a strong tractor. Obviously, Dixon has the Mahindra. We looked at New Holland and we looked at John Deere. So we looked at 4 comparable tractors in their class and series. The Mahindra is the only one I'm not really familiar with and did only carry a 75 horsepower engine. So the Sapelo is in stock, the Kubota tractor is in stock. One of the John Deeres, I know that they are strong and they are second low bid compared to the other bids at the same horsepower.
Okay, I think we need to take the tractor and the loader attachment as a group, a matched pair.
Yes.
So,
So 135.
I make the motion, we, go with Sapelo equipment with a 105 horsepower Kubota and matching loader.
I second that.
Any discussion on this? We got a first and second, all in favor? We'll buy us a Kubota. All right, on the 15-foot bat wing,
Yes, so Sapelo Equipment was quoting Land Pride. Dixon quoted a Bush Hog. King Line also quoted Bush Hog, and Ag Pro quoted the Rhinos. The Rhino is a superior product, very closely followed by Bush Hog, and then Land Pride. Certainly, when you look at all of the specs, Land Pride is a little bit below in not just PTO, but geared box and several other items. The big caveat here, Bush Hog we have also used in the past at Public Works. It had good resale value on the equipment, is the Rhinos are not available until May of 2023. And that's if we were to count on that. So the Bush Hogs are available within 4 to 6 weeks at either of the dealers. My recommendation is to go with the equipment that we know can be here. Bush Hog, all of the specs were comparable within a very reasonable amount.
okay, can I get a motion on this item
Motion to approve the purchase of the Bush Hog.
from Dixon
Dixon
Tractor?
Tractor.
Dixon tractor.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All those in favor? Some more. All right, this brings us to the 6-foot rotary mower.
This one as well, Sapelo was Land Pride, Dixon and King Line had the Bush Hogs, Ag Pro had the Rhino, and it really comes down to the availability. Same thing, I validated all of the specifications and all of the warranties. So my recommendation is Dixon Tractor for the Bush Hog
So the Rhino is not available.
until May of 2023.
Okay. All right, can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve the Bush Hog from Dixon tractor.
Can I get a second? I'll second it.
Discussion.
Sure.
Your recommendation was to get it from Dixon Tractor?
Yes, sir.
They were they a little bit higher? It was like
They were on that one. They're less on the other Bush Hog.
So to try to keep it simple.
Yes. For warranty purposes, trying to keep one dealer would be ideal.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's all I was trying to clarify.
Okay. We got a first and second. Can I get a vote on this item? All in favor? All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Intermission.
Intermission.
Is
And we'll come back and work on what, the 8-foot rotary mower. All right, I think we left off at the 8-foot rotary mower.
Sapelo Equipment had Land Pride, Dixon Tractor, and Kingline had the Bush Hogs. Ag Pro had the Rhino, again, based on availability and machine. I would recommend Dixon Tractor for the Bush Hog.
Got a motion on this item?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, this brings us to the zero-turn mowers.
Sapelo had the Kubotas, which is a very good brand, especially for heavy-duty commercial work. Dixon Tractor had a Bad Boy. Kingline had the Bad Boy. Ag Pro had John Deere, and Tate's Lawn had the Skag Turf Tiger. So overall, based on the type of equipment, I would recommend Kubota. I know it's a good commercial mower. I've used it in the past. I don't have real history on Bad Boy, and John Deere, of course, and Skag were both much higher. And then down to availability, Ag Pro again came in at May 2023. My recommendation would be for Sapelo to get the Kubota tractors, zero turns.
Can I get a motion on this item?
There's 72-inch and 60-inch.
What's the diesel in parentheses? Is that a separate model or is that?
It is. It's a
diesel?
separate model and a separate price. Some of them gave us diesel pricing and gas, and some just gave gas.
Is there any logistic concerns with the tractors? I mean, I know you can't get away from having gas with small engines and stuff like that, but logistically, is there a benefit to have the diesels with, transferring fuel with your service trucks? Or
You'd get a lot more production out of the diesel than you will with the gasoline powered ones. I believe, the power is there and more. The diesel unfortunately has went up a lot in price. I mean, just the equipment itself in the last 3 to 4 years compared to where it used to be. But, it certainly is a better tractor and utilizes more productivity. The recommendation for the 72-inch mowers is for Sapelo Equipment for Kubota.
That's only 24 horsepower.
Yes, sir. That might be a mistake.
That seems a little under par because my 52 inch is
Yeah,
27 horsepower.
yeah, it looks like it was probably a mistake because I've got 25 on the 60-inch.
Yes, should be larger than that.
All right, can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve Kubota from Sapelo Equipment.
Need a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Motion carries. You did vote yes.
And those units are in stock now. Down to the 60-inch zero turns for the commercial, Sapelo quoted Kubota, Dixon and Kingline had the Bad Boys, Ag Pro had John Deere, Tate's had Skag. From a pricing perspective and specifications and in stock, my recommendation is for Sapelo for the Kubotas.
Get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve the Sapelo with the Kubota 60-inch.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries.
Down to the 20-foot landscape trailers with the sides, Sapelo quoted a clay with sides, 5,200-pound axles. Southern Hardware quoted the same unit. Kaufman Trailers quoted their unit of Kaufman with 6,000-pound axles. The recommendation was to go with Kaufman's. We have utilized them in the past for our flatbed for $750. They have been really good on warranty and customer service and have a good product.
Got a motion on this item?
Motion to approve the trailers from Kaufman.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries.
The last item is really just on there for my spreadsheet and to keep me squared away, but it was already budgeted on the small equipment when we made the budget amendment, and the 2-cycle, we would keep all steel products, and Ace Hardware and Tate's is the one that are giving us comparable pricing.
This is local Ace Hardware?
Yes.
I prefer we go with them.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion on that since it was already budgeted or?
Okay.
We can.
No.
I'll make a motion, we buy the steel products from local Ace Hardware.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries.
Think
Thank you.
that, thank you.
We'll spend some money.
The good thing with the ACE, they have service on site.
Yeah.
They can service their products too.
In their local.
They love them, yeah.
Yes,
What color are those bush hogs? Are they red?
they'll be red.
Okay, surely we can't put that on an orange tractor.
Yeah, yeah. Gonna have to work on that.
Yeah.
All right, the next agenda item is for the borrow pit leases. We are winding down, in fact, this week. We are ordering the grass seed and fertilizer for the last pit we finished was 7 acres. So we're at this point going to look for some smaller acreage pits to be able to get at least 1 acres or less to avoid some of the permitting and going through that process, because I do need to get some people trained. So we need to go through this process a few times to get Robert training some folks on how to take over. So the borrow pit leases for Kenneth McCarthy and Michael Brozovich. Both of these, we utilize the borrow pits to get dirt for our unpaved roads. We've completed the old post pit. We've identified several smaller ones in the area that we will go to. Certainly as we continue with the aggregate to build up our roads as we have, hopefully we create a less dependency on these borrow pits to build up the roads. But for now, we still have it. And we still have many roads that require to be built up on the unpaved side for 8 to 12 inches of depth. The request is motion to approve acceptance of the borrow pit leases for Kenneth McCarthy and Michael Brozovich.
Can I get a motion on these items?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Borrow pits. All right, this brings us to.
Thank you.
Our new item number 11. Which is,
PSA.
PSA. I assume this is, for the charges against Brunson and others, or?
Mr. Brunson, yeah, we could just say all of them. Preamble to it is, it's been brought to my attention that our sheriff's office is encountering problems bringing all of those who participated in the PSA thefts to justice. The cases, which have been assigned to 3 different district attorneys, all seem to be stuck in the mud with statutes of limitation running. Our community can't close the door on this unfortunate debacle until those who participated in the theft are brought to justice. Now, there is a little bit of relief in that the court system, because of COVID, has extended the statute of limitations for a period of 18 months. It was set to close this coming April, a month and a half from now. And they've extended it, excuse me, for 18 months, but that's going to evaporate very quickly in terms of how long it takes to prosecute cases. Now, there's a gentleman sitting on the back row back there who has worked very diligently to build cases, and he has a stack of indictments, and he is frustrated. He and the sheriff have been to Attorney General Carr's office directly pleading to get these cases moving. So they've fallen on deaf ears. My purpose in this is not to be punitive. My purpose is to bring justice. It's twofold. One, to make those who were responsible for the theft of somewhere between $3 and $7 million, who knows, because accounting was not done, and that's been thoroughly documented by Detective Byerly sitting back there. And it's to bring them to justice, to answer for what they did, and to give notice to anybody henceforth and forevermore who thinks they're going to come into Camden County, Georgia, and steal from the taxpayers, that you will be prosecuted. So at this point, I'm ready to make a motion, if you will entertain that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. What's your motion?
My motion is that the county manager is directed to contact each of the district attorneys who are handling the PSA cases and request an explanation as to why these cases have not been pursued despite our sheriff's department's diligent investigation and findings that crimes were committed. I will add this note. The only person serving time is serving in a club fed, and he's serving on a charge of income tax evasion. No one has been held accountable for the actual theft of funds. This board has an opportunity to make a clean sweep and put aside all of that nonsense, and any member of this board who does not see the validity in doing that, I seriously question their judgment. Thank you. That's the motion.
Got a copy of that motion?
I do have, and I will provide it to Ms. Katie.
One small correction, just.
Yes, sir.
Just to make sure we dot our i's and cross our t's.
Yes, sir.
It's the office of the sheriff, not the sheriff's department.
I'm sorry. It is the
Well, if
office.
you want to do that, we don't have a county manager without a county administrator.
Thank you for that.
So we want to do all that. Now, I've been in conversation with the sheriff before, and Chuck, we ran into each other at, started to say Home Depot, but it's Lowe's. It is frustrating. It's very frustrating that nothing has been done. I also talked with our newly elected DA, and he can't do anything with it because he represented defenders in his private practice. He told me that it's going to fall to the newly elected Waycross district attorney. I don't know if that's true or not. Okay. Well, that's what he thought at the time. And this was back before January, before he took office. So I don't know what it's. Sure. I was going to ask Chuck to come up, and Chuck or you, Sheriff, either one of you. Well, hold on a minute, Jimmy. Come up to the microphone.
It's split currently between 3 district attorneys.
Jimmy, can you start over? Because
It's currently split between 3 district attorneys. The Camden district attorney still holds on to part of it. He can't proceed against defenders because he represented them.
Okay.
That was conflicted out, I believe, to Waycross. Another portion, I can't remember, Chuck, which was conflicted out to Savannah, Mr. Brunson. The rest of it remains in Camden. In order to get a successful prosecution, in my opinion, it all needs to be kept together, which the Attorney General could assign it to a different DA that could hear all of it, or they could take it up with themselves and do it. Chuck and I have approached the AG's office and requested that, and it's gone nowhere. We went up last March. And if you want to know details about the case itself, that would best come from Chuck.
Hey, and sure, and this is purely rumor, so you correct me if I'm wrong, but he lost none of his assets, am I correct?
He who?
The William Brunson. Is that
I don't
correct?
believe so.
Yeah, so the county got no money back from any of that, right? Or
No.
PSA?
Not as far as I know.
Okay.
Federal only.
Tax evasion.
Yeah.
And
First, yeah.
I want to see your motion.
Very bottom paragraph, sir.
I think that would be a good starting point, and I think ultimately we're going to get directed to the AG's office, and that conversation might need to be had at that level as well.
Well, I think we should make a joint resolution from the board to each of the district attorneys and the state district attorney.
The state attorney general?
Yes, sir.
If we're dotting i's. Thank you, Ben.
Yay.
But, I think we ought to do a joint statement, joint resolution.
And can we include the grand jury, the local grand jury in that to add extra emphasis to it?
I don't know. Grand jury,
They give
things are
resolutions.
secret, so I don't know if they're looking at it. I have no idea how that works.
Chuck, would that be beneficial to include the grand jury in this also?
attorney has the authority to call the grand jury. Because of the three district attorneys and the different, we want a special grand jury, which the AG could call, keep these cases together, we can present the case.
Can you come up to the microphone for two reasons, so we can better hear you? And also, you're clashing with that wall behind you, and I just about can't stand it.
Well,
You-
can
you
you
have-
start over so
you have-
it's captured for the
The
record?
decision to take something to the grand jury, the district attorney normally panels the grand jury. He hears cases before this. Because we've got three jurisdictions involved, we don't want those cases separate. It would be critical. And what we've asked the Attorney General and Mr. Carr and some of his staff for was a special grand jury, which was in their purview to call a grand jury wherever it may be. It doesn't really matter, but one down in this area where the entire case can be presented to a special grand jury. That way we can see about indicting those people that, have been charged. And once we get in front of a grand jury, I expect other indictments from unindicted co-conspirators to come as well. That's something where the grand jury can do that. Wherever in the state of Georgia it is, Attorney General would call and panel a grand jury, and I'd go there and give them my story.
Chuck, you've done a remarkable job of investigation. I hope my colleagues see the validity in that, and that we give you what you need and the sheriff what he needs to get this taken care of.
Well, there's a lot of people that worked on this. I had help from various agencies. FBI gave me tech support and everything.
But why, it's how many years down the road? I mean, I don't understand what the holdup was.
Neither do we.
Okay, so us writing this would help him, is that?
Well, it gets some attention. Hey, there's, right now it's just sitting there writing. Nobody's been called to account or anything. It's, I got millions of dollars going into county officials' pockets, without repercussion.
Wow. You're right.
And if anybody wants to know anything, I know I've talked with several of you on the specific, if anybody wants to know anything about the PSA, look at case files, anything, and that's anybody in the audience.
And you would be astounded when you read it.
And all you need to do is you call up there and you say, I want to talk to Chuck, tell me about the story. I want people to know about it.
Chuck, can you speak in the microphone?
I would like people to know about that, and you'll go home with nightmares.
All right. Why don't we get with the sheriff's office and come up with a joint resolution from the board and the sheriff's office to present to whoever
Do you think we
sheriff's
could
office
get
recommends?
buy-in from our state delegation since this is involving the AG's office?
Sure, we can ask.
Sure.
Yeah.
Your representatives, Mr. Saines and whoever else, and
More the merrier.
yes, sir.
All right, so
Yeah.
do you want to amend your recommendation or your motion to put out a joint statement with the sheriff's office on this?
I would like to amend the motion to say that we take steps to create a joint resolution involving all stakeholders and parties of any utility to the purpose of bringing this matter to the forefront of the judicial system and let them decide guilt or innocence. But to let it languish, no, sir, I won't accept that. So that's the motion. Let's do what we can. And Chuck and Sheriff, is there anything else we need to add to that?
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
All right, this brings us to item number 12. Mr. Goodman.
I just want to know if Mr. Myers, now having seen the results of the one case that I was involved in, can now say to me that he can speak to me without my attorney being present. I didn't hear it.
At this time, I won't.
Then I request that this board provide counsel for me, the same as you did for the probate court judge, because I'm sitting up here bare and my resources do not cover my backside. And I'm serious about that. Every one of you enjoys the comfort for whatever value that legal representation is of that, and I don't enjoy it, and I'm not sure I would enjoy it if it was provided to me, but I don't have anything. Now, that's not right.
Ask a question.
Sure.
Are you talking about, all right, this, whatever you had against you is gone, right? You don't have any legal issues going on
I
now?
was a named plaintiff
Right.
in that petition
Right,
to bring the matter of the purchase of land to a head.
right.
It was heard in court. The county lost.
I guess,
They appealed to the Supreme Court. They lost
I got it.
with flying colors.
I guess
Now-
what I'm wondering, are you asking us from here forward to take care of your legal representation, or is it from here backward?
Well, at this point, Martin, you're sitting here, and if you do something that is untoward, the attorney will represent you. He won't
Right.
even speak to me.
Yeah, and I can't.
That's not my understanding.
Well,
He
that's
just
mine.
won't talk to you about the spaceport.
Well, then suppose I make a mistake in reference to the spaceport. That's enough to put me into financial ruin right there. So I need legal representation to that extent, if not more than that.
Okay, then my next question is, how much money are we talking about? Do you
I
an
have no idea.
Okay.
Lawyers are expensive.
Yeah, I know that one, but
But that was something I was wanting clarity on. I mean, is this, specific to spaceport related discussions between the two of y'all, or
You would have to ask him. I don't know what he meant.
are y'all not conversing at all related to other county related matters?
Any other county-related matter, litigation or otherwise, I'll be glad to speak to Mr. Goodman about.
But you won't represent me in reference to any breach
It's
I
not-
make. That is correct.
It's not a matter of representing you individually. I represent the commission and the county.
And I am part of it.
You're also a named plaintiff in a suit.
And I understand you have a valid legal reason
I
in that
finish?
one case. Yes,
Can I
sir.
finish?
Please go ahead.
You were a named plaintiff in a case with the support of 100 miles. We're still in active litigation with 100 miles.
I don't think 100 miles was a factor in any of my testimony or anything that I did.
You didn't give any testimony in that lawsuit, and 100 miles had a representative who was the first person to witness in that lawsuit.
Okay, we're getting into the legal aspects, and that's exactly why I need representation.
You can contact Mr. Braun, who I sent the letter to.
And I can't afford Mr. Braun,
Well,
and the county can. And I hate to burden the county with it, but I am a public servant. I am an elected public servant. And you are a hired employee. And I got to tell you something. One of us may have to go, and it won't be me.
So I'm looking at this and trying to assess the situation, and I see it no different than some of the other litigations that we've had internally, amongst the county. And I feel like in instances, where Judge Sweat was our defendant in that case, and the county was the plaintiff, correct?
that's correct.
And we had to afford an attorney for him, same way with some other litigations. So, I mean, I think Mr. Goodman makes a very good point of not having representation, and being a body of the commission, I can certainly see your point of the conflict of conversing. And so I would be inclined to support getting representation for Mr. Goodman, regarding the issues he's concerned about and feels like he needs to seek advice on or counsel on. But I feel like, if we could get a little more information about what that would look like, and, I'm not sure how that process worked for other constitutional officers, that we've had to do so in the past for, but, I don't think it's an unreasonable request.
But, the only thing about it to me is it's based on the situation. In other words, you can advise him on anything here with the exception of spaceport. Am I correct?
Absolutely. We've already had an
Well,
executive session. in
spaceport
which
is
I-
a
Can I
broad
finish, please?
Yeah.
May I finish, please?
Yes, sir.
We've already had an executive session with this sitting commission in which I gave legal advice, and Mr. Goodman was present.
I do remember that.
Are you
I would-
finished? 100 miles was not a plaintiff in the lawsuit. That case is over. The Supreme Court decision is final, and my conflict of any sort is over. It's done.
That's why I'm saying, can we make it so that what we supply him with is an attorney, just on that particular topic? You know, I mean, I don't know what that would cost. I know I pay $600 an hour for my attorney, but, not sure what it would cost. But can we do that? Is that possible?
I don't know.
That does it. I mean, that's what you're asking for. Am I correct?
I'm asking for protection
On that subject?
on any subject that the county attorney will not represent
That's
me.
right. That's right. But he will. He'll represent you on anything except
Spaceport.
that topic. Yeah.
Okay?
Can we do that? That's what I'm asking. Because if it's true that we can, then, you know,
Certainly we can. We've done it.
Well,
Mr.
we
Myers,
did it for a constitutional officer.
Yeah.
Mr. Goodman's suit was brought before he was elected. Now, going forward, you know, I don't know how we can handle this. I don't have an answer.
can you articulate the conflict, Mr. Myers?
Absolutely. Mr. Goodman, I don't have any faith that I can speak about freely with my client, the county commission, with you present regarding.
am I not your
I'm
client?
sorry, but I'm not through.
Let him speak.
I'm not through.
Okay.
I'll let you know when
I
I'm through.
apologize.
I wasn't through. Mr. Goodman, I don't have any faith at this point that I can freely discuss spaceport litigation with the balance of the commission with you present. That's an ethical and legal principle that is articulated in the Code of Professional Conduct. I sent you or your attorney a letter to advise you of that conflict. And I feel that that conflict still exists going forward. Now, you're not an adversarial party. For example, the sheriff has sued the county. Under state law, we are obliged to provide legal counsel for the sheriff if the county attorney cannot represent him. But that is an adversarial relationship. You had a prior adversarial relationship before you were a commissioner, as Commissioner Casey has pointed out. And that has created that conflict.
Do you feel like, I'm sorry, are you through?
I think so.
Thank you. And I apologize to you for butting in, but that's how insecure I feel in this situation, Mr. Myers. I'm sure you can appreciate that as an attorney. So can you tell me that we can have this relationship going forward without me risking that I don't fully understand it as not a lawyer myself? Or do I need legal representation?
I think that's up to you and the balance of the commission. It's their vote.
Well, then up to me would say I need protection. I don't want to keep these people hostage all night, Mr. Casey. I would accept that we group and discuss this
do some research.
and have research. That's a good word, Mr. Turner. And we come back at some point.
All right, you want to amend your motion or well,
I don't think there was a
then we
motion.
can make a motion.
I don't think we did.
I can suggest compromise. We could request an opinion from either the ACCG, legal counsel, or from the Attorney General regarding whether he is entitled to or needs legal representation on this issue.
I would
going
accept
forward.
it from the Attorney General.
Okay.
Okay, we can do that.
Yep.
All right, anything else?
No, thank you for hearing me.
Hey, are we almost adjourned?
No.
Not quite.
No.
Oh, bummer.
Oh,
Ready.
Hold your
we
horses.
might get out of here before 12 o'clock. All right, where's mine?
Public comment.
All right. We are at the calendar. Okay.
There's no changes to the calendar at this time, but I would remind everyone, we do have a work session on the 21st that begins at 5 p.m.
And that's about the Woodbine Library.
Yes, sir.
Okay, county administrator comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a PowerPoint. Scott, can you get that put up here? Just want to recognize our Shining Star department from last year, Public Works. We've recognized them at one of our employee recognition meetings that we had at the very end of last year. Just to kind of highlight, some of the big things that Public Works has been able to accomplish over the last several months is, prior to January, they had over 42 miles that they upgraded as part of the just our dirt road improvement plan. In the month of January, they added another 2.5 miles. And they're expected to complete a total of 70 miles just in that first phase. So, there's still a lot of work. The board has appropriated quite a bit of money and aggregate materials to assist with that project. These are just a few photos of the Public Works Department barbecue luncheon that we did last Monday. Really good success. They actually received a congratulatory letter from Congressman Carter's office. That was read aloud there at that meeting, and we appreciate the commissioners who were able to attend that. The other item I wanted to highlight is the county has recently announced the 2022 annual report. Highly encourage the board, if you have not had the opportunity to look through that, please do. Also the citizens, if you'd like to look through that, there's a lot of accomplishments that your county government has completed for you last year, a lot of pertinent information and details. Again, as we move, to try to provide more information publicly, my office as well as all of the department staff have been working diligently, putting together a county administrator's brief or a monthly report that will be coming out soon. There's obviously that is a large undertaking. I think right now we're approaching 30 pages long, so it's quite a bit of information, a lot of detail. Photos, supporting documentation. So look forward to seeing that coming out in the next week or so. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Question on the calendar. With the upcoming work session on, was it February 21st? Is that correct? Did we invite the city of Woodbine as a stakeholder to participate in the Woodbine Library
Yes, we
discussion?
did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, this brings us to our last public comment section. Anybody registered?
Yes, I'll have just a few. The first person is going to be Mr. Christopher Walker.
Good evening. My name is Chris Walker, and I'm a resident of St. Mary's. Last month, the county attorney's contract was brought up as a motion to reaffirm. County Attorney Meyer's contract specifically says, quote, whereas CCBC does hereby retain the legal services of attorney to provide required legal services on behalf of the CCBC, the Camden County government and administration, the elected constitutional officials of Georgia, etc. This is just one part of one part of what is required of Mr. Myers under this contract. It's my understanding that Mr. Myers has informed Commissioner Jim Goodman that he cannot represent Mr. Goodman in Mr. Goodman's official capacity as a quote elected official. As quote elected constitutional official of Camden County, due to Mr. Goodman's participation in lawsuits against the county. So my question is, how then can Mr. Myers serve as county attorney if he cannot fulfill the duties under his contract?
Thank you for your comment.
Our next is going to be Mr. Robert Bauer.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Bauer.
All right, next will be Mr. Rob Moore.
Good evening again. Third time's a charm. I guess to recap, I guess my feelings about the county attorney matter is it's almost as if Mr. Goodman is being penalized for one of his platforms that he was elected to do to question the whole validity of spaceport. Me personally, I was happy for the Supreme Court ruling. I would say I was pretty positive, and I like any growth. I started to lose faith in spaceport. I signed the petition because I believe in democracy. Let it go to a referendum. And when that was questioned and Judge Sweat was drug in, I guess the constitutional streak in me got very angry that you're you're tossing that piece of paper out the window, the right to petition your government. But that brings me to the real reason why I came and sat for this energetic evening is I wanted to bring attention and ask questions, and it does seem very arbitrary if you gentlemen want to engage or not. I'm used to St. Mary's where they stare at you and maybe the city manager will make a comment like, I'll get back to you. So Coastal Regional Coaches, Coastal Regional Commission, I believe, Mr. Brandt, you sit on the Coastal Regional Council along with Miss or Mrs. Chance of Kingsland and Mr. Root, a private citizen. So my question is, are you familiar with the coaches, the buses, the white buses that park at the PSA? All right, so back around approximately November of 21, the city of St. Mary's and this body issued ARPA money. I believe there was Mr. Landon that was involved. He was an ARPA coordinator. It seemed like great song and dance. We're going to help the downtrodden and the people of St. Mary's and Camden in general so they could go get the jab and whatever else because we have so many pedestrians. Let's get people there. So we stroke checks from the ARPA money to provide no-cost transportation. If you go to the county website, type in no-cost transportation, it gives you a spiel about the buses, links you to the CRC. You go to the CRC, it says 24-hour advance notice if you call Monday through Friday, 7 to 5. So let's rewind 1 year ago. It was this time last year, my father rushed to Southeast Georgia Health System. Luckily, there was an EMT that knew me, knew my father, because he was just in pajamas, didn't really have identification. I got the call, hey, he's here, he's unconscious, your next point of contact. Ends up, he had a huge cyst under his skull, pushing on his brain, 2 weeks in ICU, craniotomy, recovery, small tumor oncology, and all that stuff. So now it brings, basically from the summer last year to now, he still suffers with depth perception, equilibrium, dexterity, and he waves the flag saying, it's unsafe for me to drive. So I contact the CRC because it's taxpayer funded, says any person in Camden County is free as long as there's this bucket of money. And I try to schedule MRI appointments, physical therapy appointments, the radiology, stuff like that. I'm calling 2 and 3 weeks in advance, and I'm told no availability, and I have a record here. April 13th for a April 28th appointment, no availability. May 11th for a 23rd appointment of May, no availability. June 20th, I just called and say, what availability do you have? And I'm told Tuesdays, 10 to 1. 10 to 1, Tuesday, 3 hours. That's it. July 22nd, same thing, Tuesdays, 10 to 2. Oh, we gained an hour. Man, we're really picking up steam there. November 3rd, basically I gave up through storm season and all that. I just started taking time off and, luckily we don't have snow or we would have to have dog sleds. So November 3rd, I called again, Tuesdays 10 to 1, we lost an hour, and possibly on Thursdays. January 12th and 23rd, I called, and they said Tuesdays and Thursdays 10 to noon. So that's 4 total hours, but split, so you have 2 2-hour windows. That's enough time, I guess, to get picked up and have lunch and get dropped back off. January 25th, I placed calls to Representative Saines. I attempted you, Commissioner Reddick, I understand. And I also reached out to Mr. Goodman. I have a rapport with him being on my former city council, and State Senator Hodges. The evening of the 25th, Leslie from Senator Hodges' office contacted me, and I had about a 45-minute conversation with her. So I want to go on record, thank you to Senator Hodges' office for interacting with me as a constituent and start shining some light. So February 1st, a gentleman, Don Musiak, I may be wrong, but he is a gentleman that's in McIntosh County, I guess you call it at their bus barn, transportation yard, but he's the head honcho of those little white buses that sit there at the PSA. He was told he was pinged by the senator's office, I guess trickled down through Mr. Burns, the executive director of the CRC. Give this give this loud, annoying guy in St. Mary's a call. He wants to know something about your buses. Because he walked in to the conversation completely inept. First, he thought I had a daughter that needed, then a mother, and then I said, no, it's my dad. So I guess we just went down the guess who list. I asked him, how many buses do you have in Camden? I don't know. And then a few minutes, again, sir, you don't know. Oh, it's 2 or 3. Well, doing my own Colombo Peter Falk, there's 5 buses that sit there and 4 roll every day. And I have some other people that ride by there, they take a picture and they text it to me. So we have 4 buses that roll around Camden, possibly a 5th. I don't know if it's a spare, if it's broken, or we're missing a driver, which is their go-to excuse at the CRC. But 4 buses, and I can't get any availability. So upon pushing on Mr. Musiak, and then also Freudian slips of their dispatchers, those ladies, if you just not calling them ma'am and just go, oh shucks, man, it'd be nice if I could have just got a ride, but I appreciate it. I'll shell out $22 for a taxi ride. I appreciate it. They start having loose mouths, and they've stated that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they are contracted for dialysis. We only have 2 dialysis locations that I'm aware of, the Frenesius and the DeVita in St. Mary's by the Winn-Dixie. And granted, I'm not posted up, doing urban camping as some cities want to call it. I'm not living out there by the Frenesius, but I've never seen a bus there. But I sure do see them sitting in parking lots with no riders, playing on their phones, burning our gas, the gas that our tax money pay for. And then I get another dispatcher named Quan, which her full name is on the site, Quangela Johnson or Jackson, stated that Tuesdays and Thursdays, they provide transportation to the senior centers, Woodbine and St. Mary's. So that's why when I call, the only availability is Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 until noon, maybe 1 o'clock. Because Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they're predisposed to people getting their oil changed, which I'm fine with, but let's have a separate bus that doesn't take from the general public. Because that's the whole thing they're pitching. General public, it's $3 each way, door to door. We stroke a ARPA check, help that, so people can get the jab and anything else. I mean, I'm half tempted to call. Well, actually, it's promoted that you can use this app. It's a Georgia DOT app. It's called Let's Ride app. And I've posted a screen of trying to use the app. And now I like to think I'm under 40. Pretty sure I can do an app where I can put in pick up and drop off in time, and it errors out every time. And I even did it in the window that they said was available. So, I mean, I'll work on base. I was half tempted to just say, hey, pick me up from Franklin Gate. I'll be standing out there by the submarine. Take me down to Ops, and then bring me back in that 2-hour window. And you can't even book that. So to me, I think this is a waste, fraud, and abuse issue. Because if they give you data saying that they carry Camden residents using the ARPA funds, general public, then that conflicts with with what they tell me that there's dialysis patients that they have contracts for. Are they double dipping? Same way with the senior center? If they're getting Department of Human Services for senior centers, are we also paying the $6 for those people? I'm just saying, because at this point, the only way that I could get my dad a ride when he has another appointment is to call the transportation director. He said, Mr. Moore, when his next one comes up for physical therapy, call me and we'll make it happen. Well, how is that, since it's the catchphrase of the day of our general equity, how is it equitable to anybody that you got to call the main guy to just get one ride? No, you say 24 hours ahead, 7 to 5, but they only have 4 to 6 hours for the general public. So I don't know if it was a matter of the city of St. Mary's and this body that reached out to them. I've heard 2 different stories that these municipalities reached out to the CRC with, say, hey, we want to do this with the ARPA money. Or did the CRC throw the pitch to this body? Because if they did that, they sold you a false bill of goods. Because it's not available. Okay, there's 6 hours at best. But is that really a service?
I'm gonna have to ask you to wrap it up.
I understand.
But
And the last thing, anecdotal, is I was picking up I was doing my FFL at Jibby Starlines hardware store, and I asked him, I said, you know, you sat up here long time, sir. Do you know about the buses? And he chuckled. He's like, "Shh, don't get me started." I said, well, tell me. And he tried to make appointments for his wife a few times over the years. Still, no availability. So I ask, please, let's look into this. At least just stop promoting it, because it's a false service. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Ms. Terry Keller.
So I just would like to say, first of all, that,
Terry, can you state your name?
oh, sorry,
for the-
Terry Keller from Kingsland. What the lawyer says about Jim Goodman has the effect of hamstringing him at present as far as talking about the spaceport. And that seems, the county's very interested in getting the spaceport fiasco tied up and done with. So I hope you guys can come up with an answer for him really soon. This other one is in my writing, so it might take a minute to read. But there were many articles today about the Georgia Supreme Court decision. The AP had it, ABC News had it. But I thought there was an interesting quote. It said, Camden County said allowing voters to directly overturn decisions of county officials could lead to instances of a single issue being repeatedly approved by the county, then repealed by votes. The Georgia Supreme Court dismissed that argument in its ruling, saying there is little evidence that such a parade of horribles would occur, given that a county's governing authority, which is comprised of elected officials, would be unlikely to routinely disregard the will of the electorate. Let's just hope for the future that this fresh configuration of the board here, that era is over. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else? Oh, yeah, you can have your mulch back. Yeah, I've seen these pictures.
Everything you see is brown is mulch.
Yeah.
I seriously am. This is going to the ADA, Mr. Booth in Washington. I almost got finished. What I've heard here tonight regarding Mr. Goodman's situation, as far as I know, I may be incorrect, but I believe our county attorney serves at the pleasure of the five of you gentlemen sitting up there via contract. So if he's unable to represent Mr. Goodman, it's at your discretion, not his. Tonight, our District 2 commissioner nominated his campaign manager, who he paid money to sit on the board of the Planning Commission. As far as I'm concerned, that goes right along with the other appointment that he proposed down in St. Mary's, actually Osprey Cove, to the PSA board. If you understand why I don't trust this board, and I don't trust our commissioner, that's some of it. That's plain old cronyism, and it should not have happened. And I'd be willing to bet that none of the other applicants
on there wherever contacted.
Anybody else wish to speak?
I know you guys hope I'm the last, and I hope I am too. Mark Fouts, 310 West Bryant, St. Mary's, Georgia. I really wanted to comment on your reaction to the presentation at your last meeting regarding the bond issue for St. Mary's. What we're talking about is somewhere between $30 and $34 million of a bond for phase one for this project out at exit one. The bond has to be secured by the date of annexation by the contract that was signed. Mr. Reddick, you asked some pretty significant questions. You asked Mr. Horton how they were going to pay the bond, and he said we were going to do it through the interest. One of the things that the contract stipulates is that phase one, which is St. Mary's spending that $30 to $34 million for phase one, those items have to be completed by January the 1st of 2026. That's just 3 years down the road. And he indicated they'd be paying it through the interest I guess, for pretty quickly during that 3-year period. It's not going to have that much interest that I can see. He also said we were going to use the TAP funds or TAP fees to help pay the bond. Well, if Radiant doesn't start building right away, there are no TAP fees. So that revenue is not there either. I think you asked him about the current water and sewer bond. Who's paying for that? How's that being paid? His response was aid to construction, capital recovery, and SPLOST. Well, there's another revenue stream. It's called sewer charges 1 or sewer charge 2 and water charge 2. That appears on everybody's bill in St. Mary's. And the budgeted amount for that for the 2022 period was $1,459,000. So we are paying the bond. We are paying a bond at this time for the water and sewer plant. We went a little bit farther. He went a little bit farther and asked about how to service this debt during the period. And I think Mr. Horton held up the economic impact analysis. That's a really nice document. You might be interested to know that a lot of the information that allowed this document to be built was supplied by Radiant. That's where the numbers came from. So maybe they're accurate, maybe they're not. I don't know, but you know, when they start doing something like that, I have to worry about it a little bit. I guess there was a guy from Radiant that was here talking. I don't know his name, so I'm just going to refer to him as the Radiant guy. That's the best I can do. One of the things he was really adamant about was that any shift in the market would result in a shift in the construction plan. He stated that that Radiant generates revenue from timber, and they have the capacity to be patient. I don't know what that means to you, but what it means to me is that if the market slows down, and he specifically said this, if the market slows down, they will slow down in response to the market. That's good business. You're all businessmen. You know that. That's how you do it. St. Mary's can't slow down. We are contractually obligated to do phase one in a 3-year period. So if they slow down and they don't do their construction, once again, the bond payments fall back on the citizens. I know they're market driven. I know they're looking for a return on investment, but so are we as the citizens of Camden County. We're looking for the same thing. Mr. Turner, you asked specifically, why can't they have language in the contract saying what they're going to do? And the Radiant guy basically said they're not going to, because they don't know what the market's going to do. In fact, I think he said, I can't predict interest rates. There could be a plummet in the market, but we'll adjust for it. He also said, after 2 years, if the economy is tanking, we'll just stop. The money's continuing to earn interest. Well, after 2 years, a lot of that bond money is spent, so it's not earning that much interest. But it's easier for Radiant to say, we'll stop, but St. Mary's can't stop. Those bond interest payments, they're going to continue. So
You need to wrap it up soon.
I will. In conclusion, I want to thank you guys very much for trying to hold the line on that and for asking for some type of an assurance that Radiant will perform within that 3-year period. That's the critical time period. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Anybody else?
Okay, David Rayner from Woodbine, and seeing how Mr. Goff likes to use this forum as a way to do his personal attacks, I just want to say that Lee Depew is my barber. Lee Depew owns Liberty Barbershop, and I got to know Lee over the last 3 years or so. He grew up in Camden County. He is very well trained in computers. He could have his own company anywhere in the world if he wanted to. He's written his own apps. He's done a lot of really heavy computer engineering. I believe he might have worked with someone associated with the Romney campaign. Not that that's something to be on his resume, but he is a barber that owns a business here in Camden County. And for Ben Goff to come in here and attack him like that is disrespectful, and it's opened the door for other things. If you want to go after Mr. Turner, then let's open it up to Mr. Goodman. Let's open it up to his lawyer, Kevin Lang, writing all the briefs that he reads out on his phone every time, weekly. And
let's not get too deep in the weeds.
And let's go. I'll readdress next time the Bobolink and the the Dobbs Jr. link to 100 miles and to this county. This county was used long ago for Cumberland Island. It was the rich playground of the rich and wealthy. They used it. They clear cut everything. There's not a tree on that island. Over 300 years old. That was a pineapple plantation. But this county has been used by outsiders, and it's being used again by outsiders that pour money into this county to affect our elections. And we're going to bring it all out thanks to Mr. Goff. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else? Y'all don't want to stay till 9 o'clock at least? Or?
It's only 7 more minutes.
7 more minutes?
Yep.
What's that, Mr. Bauer?
Can we make a motion to adjourn? Are we there?
Are we there? We are there. We got a motion to adjourn?
Have one clarification, please. The calendar for the upcoming election in St. Mary's, you weren't.
Sure, I didn't notice the date.
Councilperson James, I think it's past her bedtime.
She's gone.
It's deadline for registration is February the 21st, and deadline for absentee ballots is March the 10th. And I'm sorry, I don't know the date of the election, but those are 2 critical dates coming up. I'm sorry, go ahead. March 21st. Thank you very much. Thank you
for the clarification.
Thank you, Ben.
All right, we got a motion to adjourn. We got a second?
Second.
All in favor? Supper time.